During college, my girlfriend Olivia unexpectedly got pregnant, and her parents crossed several states overnight to come knocking on my door.
Get rid of it! Do you lowlifes even deserve my daughter?
My mother knelt down begging them to keep the child, willingly signing that agreement to terminate parental rights. 5 years later, after I successfully started my business and became worth hundreds of millions, Olivia's parents came begging to me bankrupt. I held the little girl with her pouty lips and teased her, "Say Ethan." The bodyguards behind me restrained the emotionally out of control them. "Mr. Cole, how should we deal with these two lunatics?" The little girl tilted her head. "Ethan said it was you who abandoned me back then." 1. Olivia was my college girlfriend. An accident left her pregnant. Back then, I was naive and ignorant, completely unaware that fate had quietly taken a turn. Until one day, Olivia's parents came to my house. "Ethan, where are you now? Come home quick. Hurry. Olivia's parents are at our place. They're in our living room right now." Mom's frantic shouts came through the phone, mixed with the clamor of noises. Olivia's parents? My mind went completely blank in an instant. Olivia's home was thousands of miles away in California. Her parents knew nothing about my relationship with Olivia. Only my parents had met her, treating her like their future daughter-in-law. When I heard my mother's urgent voice, I had a vague sense of foreboding. How could they have come all the way from California, thousands of miles away, to our home in the Midwest without any warning? "Mr. Davis, there's an emergency at home. I need to go back right away." My face turned slightly pale, and my voice cracked with tension. Mr. Davis was momentarily stunned as he took in my grave expression. He frowned, waved his hand, and said, "Go now. Look at your face, don't let it escalate into something serious. Come back to the company soon. We still need you, the key figure, for the R&D of our new energy batteries." I quickly stripped off my work uniform and dashed home like a madman. On the way, I trembled as I messaged Olivia, only to find I had already been blocked. When I called, there was only the icy sound of a busy tone. Just as I reached the doorstep, I heard a sharp, spiteful, utterly unfamiliar woman's voice coming from the living room. "How do you raise your children? At such a young age, instead of learning proper behavior, they've already learned to ruin other families' daughters?" "Madam, please calm down, came my mother's voice, trembling with tears, filled with humble pleading. "The children are still young and don't understand things properly. Let's sit down and talk this through calmly, alright? Who said we're relatives? Don't try to act familiar with me here." The voice mercilessly interrupted, speaking in heavily accented Californian English. She continued, "A proper talk? With uncultivated people like you? Humph, what's there to discuss? My daughter is a pure and innocent college student with a bright future ahead, completely destroyed by your worthless son, utterly and completely ruined." I took a deep breath and slowly pushed open that slightly ajar front door that seemed to separate two worlds. My sudden intrusion was like pressing the pause button. All sounds in the living room abruptly ceased. The father's bowed head in despair, the mother's grieving helplessness, Olivia's father's icy scrutiny, Olivia's mother's venomous resentment. All eyes were fixed on me at this moment. "Ethan Cole." Olivia's mother raised her voice sharply, pointing at me with a glare. "Finally decided to crawl back, huh? Been hiding outside like a coward, right? Speak. My Olivia is pregnant. Did you know about this? Was this your doing?" "What? Olivia is pregnant?" My body tensed up, my eyes widened in disbelief that such a thing could happen to me, shocking me into complete rigidity. "Olivia is actually pregnant?" The fragmented memories, which I thought had been diluted by the confusion of youth, suddenly became startlingly clear at the word pregnancy. It was late December last year, Olivia's birthday, and a heavy snow was falling outside the cheap yet clean motel near the school. On that romantic evening, I turned off the lights to celebrate her birthday. The candlelight on the cake reflected in her shy yet glowing eyes. We couldn't help but embrace each other, awkward, clumsy, and, forgot what else. Yes, it was a safety measure. Someone must have mentioned it back then. I can't recall who exactly, but their words were drowned out by some overwhelming mix of passion and panic. In the end, no one insisted further, an oversight we deliberately chose to forget, buried in some neglected corner. At this realization, I froze where I stood, my throat so tight I couldn't utter a single word. I instinctively turned my gaze toward my parents. My father remained seated, his head hanging low. Mom met my eyes, her eyelids heavy with tears. She shook her head desperately, her lips trembling slightly, silently repeating 3 words. "What now? What now? What's wrong with your whole family? All mute? My daughter is already 8 months pregnant." If we hadn't noticed her growing belly and discovered this ourselves, we'd still be kept in the dark. "Were you planning to escalate matters and force us into submission? How utterly deceitful of you, to deceive my daughter like this." Olivia's mother's harsh voice exploded again, shattering the deathly stillness of the living room. At that moment, while still trying to compose myself, I listened to Olivia's mother's berating with my head bowed in silence.
Seeing me remain silent, Olivia's mother grew even more furious. Look at how pathetic you are. Too cowardly to admit your crimes? Let me tell you, Ethan Cole, a toad should never dream of eating swan meat. Our Olivia has been a treasured pearl since childhood, destined to marry a Wall Street elite. What could someone like you possibly amount to? What are your parents again? One's a sanitation worker, the other's an old man working as a security guard. Her words instantly ignited my fury. She could insult me, but not my parents. I raised my head and glared at her viciously. How could Olivia, so gentle and kind, have such a spiteful mother? Where's Olivia? I want to see her. My voice was low, brimming with suppressed rage. Olivia's mother swallowed her words abruptly when met with my glare, standing frozen in place for a moment. Then she composed herself with a gulp and snorted coldly. Do you really think our family would still allow you to see Olivia at this point? A family like yours, living in this dump, dreaming of climbing the social ladder through our Olivia? Keep dreaming your ridiculous dreams. Originally, I thought since they were elders, I could tolerate their harsh words. But now I realize that her haughty attitude and the contemptuous words spewing from her mouth have burned through the last remnants of my restraint. I roared with fury. Where is Olivia? My eyes blazed with intensity as I fixed them on this venomous woman before me. My outburst made everyone turn and stare at me in stunned silence. At this moment, Olivia's father said gravely, Olivia is still at the hospital undergoing various tests. We're considering terminating the pregnancy. It must be done, we can't delay for even a second. This is for our Olivia's sake. Don't terminate it. My paternal instinct made the words burst out. That's mine and Olivia's child. What does Olivia think? What does Olivia think? Olivia's father's voice was low but icy. He looked down at me with an unquestionable air of authority and said, she's in the hospital now. No matter how much she resists, our decision is her decision. She has no right to refuse, and neither do you to interfere here. 3. He stepped in front of me, slightly shorter than I was, yet the commanding presence he had cultivated from long years of privilege and authority pressed down like a crushing mountain. Back in school, Olivia had told me her family owned a company, and her father was the boss. Since childhood, her family had imposed strict rules, forbidding her from dating anyone at school. So, our romance hadn't been revealed to Olivia's parents at all. He slightly furrowed his brows, narrowing his eyes to stare straight at me, as if trying to see right through me. Ethan Cole, young people can be a bit impulsive, quite understandable. Though these words sounded considerate, there was an undercurrent of hypocrisy in his tone. His eyes held nothing but cold calculation and utter contempt. I knew that in their eyes, Olivia and I could never be together. Their presence now was merely to sever the last shred of hope that Olivia and I could be together. He continued, but reality is reality. Olivia's future isn't something your family can afford. One accident, and you'd ruin her entire life? Drag our whole family into your mud pit? He paused, as if uttering the word cesspool would sully his dignity. We will abort this child. It's for the best, clean and simple, as if nothing ever happened. His voice was resolute, leaving no room for negotiation. As for you, Ethan Cole, stay away from Olivia from now on. Never show your face near her again, or else. The threatening words that followed were left unfinished, but that icy glare said it all. All 4 years of university had just concluded. The final semester required no classes, spent entirely preparing graduation theses. April's warmth arrived, and Olivia began wearing loose-fitting clothes. When I asked her, she said loose garments felt more comfortable in the heat. I believed her. On graduation day at the train station, she cried her heart out, clinging to me tightly. Don't worry, she said with reddened eyes, forcing a smile. I'll make my parents agree to let us be together. At the time, I only sensed she was hiding something from me. Now I understand, it was her desperate declaration, made while carrying our 6-month-old child. So slender she was, yet her loose clothing concealed the truth from everyone. She had intended to face her parents alone, trading the child for a future. But she underestimated their cold-bloodedness. Just then, a heart-wrenching sob yanked me back from my memories. It was Mom. No, sir, please, you can't abort. The child is innocent, already 8 months along. Doing this now would devastate Olivia, and for the unborn baby, it would be pure cruelty. Like a camel crushed by the final straw, she suddenly collapsed forward. Mother didn't rush towards Olivia's father, but instead fell to her knees with a heavy thud, undignified, desperate, right in front of Olivia's mother. Madam, please, I beg you, that's a living life they're carrying. Our children love each other, just let them be together. Tears streamed down her face as her calloused hands trembled. All this, my mother kneeling before these heartless parents, she did it for me. She said, we'll raise the child when it's born. We, the old couple, will raise it. Even if we lose everything, we'll raise it. We'd never burden Olivia, nor would we hinder Olivia's future. Please, we beg you to give this child a chance to live. We're begging you. Watching my mother humiliate herself like this made my heart feel as if it were being slashed by a knife. In all my life, this was the first time I'd ever seen my mother plead with someone so meekly. Finally, my father reacted at this moment. He slowly raised his head, his eyes bloodshot. He had been on night shift all night, and before he could even catch some sleep today, these two unwelcome guests came barging in. Dad let out a sigh and said earnestly, "As long as the child can be born, we'll do anything." Anything? At this point, Olivia's mother revealed a faint, barely perceptible sneer at the corner of her mouth. A trace of extremely subtle, relieved calculation. Her gaze swiftly swept over the three of us. Perhaps this was the moment she had been waiting for. 5. Olivia's parents exchanged glances, as if they had already agreed on their next move. Olivia's father pulled 2 printed documents and an ink pad from his briefcase and tossed them onto the tea table. He looked down imperiously at the mother kneeling on the floor, trembling all over. "Fine, since you want this bastard child so badly, here, sign this. Termination of parental rights agreement?" I instinctively read aloud the bolded title at the top. My heart felt as if gripped by an icy hand, my blood seeming to freeze in my veins. Correct. Olivia's father's voice was completely devoid of emotion, as if everything had been planned long in advance. "Read the terms carefully. Once the child is born, your family will solely be responsible for raising it. My daughter Olivia and our entire family will have absolutely no further involvement. Olivia bears no parenting obligations whatsoever. No matter what becomes of this child in the future, she is forbidden from seeking out her birth mother, nor does she have any right to inherit our family's assets. You, including this child, shall never disturb our Olivia's life in any form." His gaze turned toward me, carrying a cold, unyielding intensity. "As for you, Ethan Cole, sign your name and swear never to see Olivia again or contact her for the rest of your life. If you break this promise, you'll face the consequences." I gasped, staring at the chilling agreement that sent a shiver down my spine despite the sweltering summer heat. We'll sign it," Mom practically shouted in response, as if clutching at a lifeline. Struggling to rise and reach for the pen, she staggered slightly from having knelt for too long. Father closed his eyes in agony, murky tears slipping from the corners. As for me, I stood frozen in place, drowned by overwhelming helplessness and heart-wrenching pain. Signing it would completely sever any possibility between Olivia and me. It also meant my child would bear the mark of mother unknown from birth, even worse, be regarded as a disgrace by its mother's family. But, not signing? That little life about to be born would. 6. The child, that unborn little life. Olivia, lying in the hospital now, is she also enduring immense pain and terror? Were her parents forcing her like this? Overwhelming helplessness and heart-rending agony surged over me like a tidal wave. Staggering forward one step, I gripped the wobbling dining table for support, nearly losing consciousness. "Sign it already," Olivia's mother urged impatiently. "What are you dawdling for? Thinking of backing out now? Sign it or I'll call the hospital right this minute to schedule your surgery." Mom walked up to me with those 2 pieces of paper and a pen in her hands, her fingers trembling uncontrollably. There was a pleading look in her eyes, and this time the person she was begging was me. She said, "Ethan, sign it quickly, save your own child." "I beg you, son." At that moment, Dad also looked toward me, his desperate gaze fixed directly on me, silently conveying the same message. Staring at this agreement, a stabbing pain swept through my heart, making my hands tremble. Time seemed to freeze in that instant, every minute and second feeling unbearably agonizing. The living room was left with only the sound of Mom's suppressed sobs and Dad's heavy breathing. My trembling fingers could barely hold the pen Mom handed me. I bent down, over the document that would sever all ties to the past and bury the future as well. Stroke by stroke, I pressed down hard to write my name, Ethan Cole. Every stroke felt like it drained all the strength from my body. Every stroke severed another thread connecting me to Olivia. After signing my name, Olivia's mother extended an ink pad toward me. "Press your thumbprint here." I slowly dipped my index finger into the ink pad, gazing at the signature I'd just written. I pressed my fingerprint firmly onto the document. I repeated the exact same motion on another identical agreement. When I finished this procedure, Olivia's father picked up both copies of the agreement. He examined them carefully to confirm there were no issues whatsoever. One copy remained on the table, while the other was carefully stored in his briefcase. Throughout the entire process, his face remained completely expressionless. There was only the detached demeanor of someone who had dealt with a troublesome matter. "Remember your promise. If it weren't for the fact that Olivia is already 8 months pregnant, and the doctor says terminating the pregnancy might cause infertility, you wouldn't even be qualified to negotiate with me right now." His icy gaze swept over the 3 of us. "After the child is born, I'll personally hand them over to you. You'd better behave yourselves." Having said that, he didn't spare us another glance, as if staying here 1 second longer would be a stain on his dignity. Hearing Olivia's father's final words, I finally understood why they had to come here in person. It turned out Olivia was too far along in her pregnancy,
and the doctors advised against the procedure for fear it might render her infertile in the future. From start to finish, they never actually intended to terminate the pregnancy. This was all just a ploy to pressure us into signing that relationship termination agreement. Once the child was safely delivered, they planned to let me, the biological father, take custody. In their eyes, the child in Olivia's womb was like a hot potato that needed to be passed on to someone else, and I was just the right person in their eyes, without the legal complications to worry about. It would also keep suspicion at bay about Olivia having had a child before. That way, Olivia could continue being their puppet, with them pulling the strings of her life. After understanding all these schemes, I stood frozen in place, shaking my head with a bitter smile. Olivia's father turned away without even glancing at us and strode straight toward the door. Olivia's mother snorted coldly and followed him out without a word, nose held high. With a loud bang, the door shut behind them. The muffled thump reverberated through our shabby living room like a tolling bell. It also struck deep into the hearts of all three of us. Standing frozen, the words of the termination agreement kept replaying in my mind. The baby was saved, but at the cost of losing Olivia completely, and condemning this child to bear original sin from birth. Slowly, with unnatural calm, I bent down. I picked up the copy of the document on the table bearing my name, the one that belonged to me. I stared at the freshly inked signature. A few seconds later, exceedingly slowly, I tore it into pieces, one deliberate rip after another. Tiny shreds of paper drifted through my fingers, fluttering into the trash bin. My mother, startled by my sudden action, lifted her head in bewilderment. She asked in confusion, "Ethan, what are you doing?" Without looking at her, my gaze drifted over the shredded paper in the trash bin, settling on that tightly closed door that shut out the outside world. "Dad, Mom, the kid, our family will raise them. I'll raise them." I paused, sweeping my eyes across this dilapidated living room that had witnessed all our humiliations and borne the weight of our poverty and struggles. All of this will be completely crushed in the future. Slowly, word by word, I said, "From today onward, no one will ever again step into our home like this, point at our faces, and call us the bottom of society, living in this wretched place." My gaze finally settled on the shredded paper in the trash bin, as if through them, I could see the retreating figures of that elegantly dressed couple, their expressions brimming with arrogance. "I'll remember this debt." 8. 3 months later, a car pulled up outside our yard. Olivia's father and his secretary waited at the door, the secretary cradling a swaddled bundle. We silently took the baby. "As agreed, here's the child. Remember, sever all contact from now on. Ethan Cole, change your phone number, cut all ties with my daughter." He pulled a thick envelope from his briefcase. "This contains $5,000. Move out for the next 2 years and completely sever any possible connections." He forcefully pressed the money into my mother's hands, then turned and walked away. I snatched the envelope from my mother's grip and threw it back at his secretary with all my might. "I don't need it," I said coldly. Olivia's father glanced back at me, a mocking smile tugging at his lips before he turned and left in his car. I looked down at the infant in my arms, mine and Olivia's child. How utterly heartbroken must Olivia be at this moment? In the blink of an eye, 5 years had passed. Though time could erode many things beyond recognition, some marks etched into one's very bones would never fade. With a patented innovation, I successfully took the company public. Now, I've risen to become the regional president of a subsidiary, and this region happens to be the very city where Olivia resides. Just then, my assistant handed me several documents, the topmost one being the latest due diligence report on Olivia's father's company. My gaze calmly swept over those startling keywords: insolvency, core asset freeze, bank loan suspension, collective supplier claims, personal bankruptcy of founder Andrew Miller. The concluding statement at the end of the report was cold and clear: an imminent collapse with no viable rescue plan. The founder of this company, Andrew Miller, happened to be Olivia's father. "Mr. Cole," the assistant's voice came through the intercom at that moment. "The front desk downstairs reports that a Mr. Miller and his wife insist on seeing you. They've waited for 3 hours, claiming to be old acquaintances with an urgent matter." "Old acquaintances? Mr. Miller?" 9 years, enough time for ants to climb to the clouds, and for once arrogant gentlemen to fall into the dust. Andrew Miller, Olivia's father. He's finally come. Sooner than I expected, and far more wretched too. "Let them come up." My voice came through the intercom, steady without a trace of ripple. "Yes, Mr. Cole." A few minutes later, the office door slowly swung open. Following the assistant were 2 familiar figures. The visitors were none other than Olivia's parents, who had caused quite a scene in our home years ago. Only now, they had lost the arrogance and haughtiness of those days, replaced by the weariness and disheveled appearance brought by time. Those 2 faces once filled with arrogance and scheming now bore puffy eye bags and cloudy, vacant eyes. Their expressions were saturated with anxiety, despair, and a shred of dignity desperately clinging to survival. Coral, They stared at me seated behind the desk before them, the same penniless wretch they'd crushed beneath their heels 5 years ago like an insignificant ant. Now he had become the Mr. Cole they needed to look up to and plead with. The enormous gap in status and the intense humiliation made it hard for him to utter that Mr. afterward. I watched him calmly, my gaze indifferent and devoid of any warmth, as if I were merely scrutinizing a business report. I neither stood up nor exchanged pleasantries, not even offering a gesture to invite them to sit. The massive desk stood like an insurmountable chasm, clearly dividing us. "Mr. Miller," I began, breaking the suffocating silence. "5 years no see. It appears your company's grand ambitions have encountered a minor setback?" My deceptively casual words struck their rawest nerve. His voice trembled, feigning composure. "Ethan Cole, you've made it big now. I know." He hesitated for a moment before continuing. "Help me, for old time's sake, for Olivia's sake. The company can't fail. It's my life's work. Just a little capital to tide me over, and I'll bounce back. I swear." Old time's sake? I raised an eyebrow slightly, leaning back in my chair. "Mr. Miller, did we ever actually have such a thing between us?" 10. I turned my gaze to him, my expression serious as I said, "As for Olivia, it's been 5 years. How is she?" Olivia's mother hurriedly interjected. Our Olivia ran away from home for you 2 years ago. We haven't heard from her since. Today, we've brought the agreement from back then. If you just agree to help us, this agreement can be nullified." She frantically pulled out that piece of paper. Looking at the agreement I was forced to sign back then, a surge of fury welled up inside me, ready to burst forth. "Do you really think I don't know why Olivia ran away? You treated her as a tool for a business marriage alliance, and she would rather die than comply. That's what drove her to leave. Have you felt even an ounce of remorse?" My voice grew increasingly stern as I continued. "Also, why didn't she come to me after running away? Did you say something to Olivia?" I tried to regain my composure, staring at the shameful agreement in Olivia's mother's hand. "Tear it up. Tell me the truth, and I might consider helping you." "Really? Fine. We'll tear it up." Hope flared in Olivia's mother's eyes as she ignored her husband's protests and quickly shredded the agreement into pieces. "Back then, we tricked Olivia into believing you signed the agreement voluntarily for the settlement and the child. We showed her your signature, making her resent you completely and sever any lingering feelings she had for you. So it was true. That piece of paper didn't just cut off my path, it destroyed Olivia's trust and love for me. Will you help us now?" Olivia's mother pleaded with humility, eerily reminiscent of how my own mother had once begged them to keep Grace. I glared at them coldly and said, "Your methods are truly despicable." I said I would consider it, that doesn't mean I agreed. Olivia's father pointed at me and roared, "Ethan Cole, you tricked us. Our family has been reduced to this state entirely because of you. Don't forget, if it weren't for our mercy back then, if we hadn't been soft-hearted, that illegitimate child of yours would have already reap what you sow." I coldly cut him off. "You sure know how to glorify yourselves. If it weren't for you forcibly separating me from Olivia back then and maliciously scheming against us, none of this would have happened today." Bang! A dull thud abruptly cut through the tension-filled atmosphere. The office door slowly creaked open. A little girl in an exquisite pink dress, dressed like a doll, rushed in like a gust of wind. "Ethan!" The crisp voice carried undisguised dependence and joy. "At home, Grace calls me Daddy, but when we go out, she switches to calling me Ethan. This was taught by her grandmother, to call me by name when we're in public, so this bachelor wouldn't have trouble finding a partner while carrying a child around. Yet I've never considered remarrying, for Olivia alone occupies my heart." "Ethan, Grace is home from school. Teacher Peterson said Grace got a little red flower for her drawing." Grace showed me her drawing proudly. "Wow, Grace did such a great job. Who's this cute little one in the picture?" "This is Grace," she exclaimed excitedly, pointing her tiny finger at the ponytailed figure in the center of the drawing. "This is Ethan. This is Grandma and Grandpa." She pointed again at the 3 small figures next to her, then at that large house. "This is our home. The big house. Grace is amazing." I smiled while stroking her soft hair, then slowly raised my gaze to meet Olivia's parents again. My eyes regained their previous coldness, now tinged with a barely perceptible mockery. I held Grace, adjusting my position slightly, making her face the 2 people standing as stiff as statues. My voice was soft, deliberately gentle. "Grace, come on, say." I paused intentionally, my gaze sweeping over the 2 before me. Then, I clearly uttered the final 2 words, "Ethan." Grace looks up at me obediently. "Ethan? Ethan? What did you let her call you? Ethan? Ethan Cole, have you lost your mind, you madman? Devil, that's your flesh and blood. That's your bastard child with my daughter. You." Olivia's father babbled incoherently, his sanity completely shattered, as he rushed forward recklessly. "Stop him." My voice was ice-cold, utterly devoid of inflection. The 2 bodyguards standing behind me quickly stepped forward and restrained him. Olivia's mother knelt on the ground, pleading desperately for her husband to be released. "Grace,
I'm your grandmother. Tell your brother to let your grandfather go.
Grace was terrified by this sudden turn of events and buried her head in my chest.
Grandma?
She furrowed her tiny brows as if remembering something.
Then in her distinctive, timid voice she said, Ethan once told me that they didn't want me back then.
Olivia's mother was stunned by Grace's shocking words.
Then she completely broke down in uncontrollable sobs.
The bodyguards promptly restrained them both as their emotions spiraled out of control.
Then, with a composed expression, he said, Mr. Cole, what should we do with these two lunatics?
12. I stroked Grace, who was trembling slightly in my arms, and didn't respond immediately. Eventually, I waved my hand, signaling for them to be escorted out of the company. Daddy, they're so scary. Her muffled voice carried grievance and lingering fear.
Don't be afraid. Grace isn't scared.
I gently patted her back, my voice carrying a tenderness I'd never known I possessed. Grace isn't scared. Daddy's here, she whispered in repetition, nuzzling against me with childlike dependence. The assistant silently gathered the shredded paper fragments on the floor, the final remnants of that terminated relationship agreement. Though legally speaking, this agreement held no binding power,
but it carries the humiliation and helplessness of that tormented boy from 5 years ago,
now standing atop the clouds, yet somewhere in the chest cavity, it still aches hollowly.
Olivia's been gone for 2 years? Where did she go? Is she doing well? Why didn't she come find me?
Even if just to see Grace. Over the next few days, Olivia's parents made several more attempts to reach me, calling my assistant. They even tried to ambush me outside the company building, but were turned away by security.
Like trapped animals, the countdown to their bankruptcy loomed overhead like a guillotine's blade.
And the last lifeline they could grasp, was the very same straw they'd once broken with their own hands. I neither had the time nor the inclination to dwell on their despair, only in the depths of night. When Grace was fast asleep, gazing at that little face growing ever more reminiscent of Olivia's, the suppressed longing for Olivia surged over me like a tidal wave.
1 week later, at dusk, a news alert popped up. Olivia's father's company had officially declared bankruptcy. Founder Andrew Miller and his wife were taken into police custody under suspicion of tax evasion, embezzlement, and other charges.
At this moment, Grace came to the office after school. The little one was unusually excited today, clutching a freshly drawn painting in her hand.
Look, Daddy, I drew our new home today. Mommy is in it too. She proudly lifted the painting up to me.
In it was a figure of a woman in a long dress with flowing hair, and beside it, scrawled in wobbly letters, Mommy. My heart sank. Grace had never seen Olivia. We had always carefully danced around the concept of Mom. We only told her that Mom had gone to a faraway place.
Grace, who told you to draw Mommy?
I held her in my arms, trying my best to stay composed.
It's Mr. Peterson.
Grace blinked her big eyes. Teacher Peterson told us the story of the little bird looking for its mother today.
She said everyone has a mother. Dad, where is my mom? Is she also very far away, like that little bird? When will she come back?
Caught off guard by her sudden question, I was momentarily at a loss for words.
Yes, how should I answer? Should I tell her that her mother was forcibly taken away by her maternal grandparents? Was it because of a cold termination agreement that kept them apart? Or should he tell her that her mother didn't stop loving her, she simply had no choice?
Grace's mom is in a very beautiful place, and she misses Grace very much.
When Grace grows up a little more, Daddy will take you to see her, okay? 13, really? Grace's eyes instantly lit up, brimming with hope. I want to grow up quickly. All right, Grace, grow up fast.
I kissed her forehead, suppressing the ache in my heart.
Just then, my phone rang. It was my assistant's number.
Mr. Cole, there's progress on the matter you asked me to look into. In an art district south of the city, we found a painter who looks very much like Miss Miller. No, I mean, like Miss Olivia.
An artist?
Olivia had loved painting since childhood, and even won first prize in a university art competition. Yes, she goes by the name Lynn now and runs a small studio in the district. Our people took some side and back profile shots. We're cleaning them up now and we'll send them to your inbox shortly.
But Mr. Cole, she looks different somehow. Send them now.
I could barely contain myself.
After 5 years of waiting, this might finally lead to our reunion.
Holding Grace tightly, I hurried toward the parking lot.
Sitting in the car, my hands trembled as I opened the email from my assistant.
Her silhouette in the photo, her profile, her gaze. Even though the photo was taken from quite a distance and is somewhat blurry, yet one can palpably sense the depth of experiences accumulated there, no longer the bright, bashful Olivia from university days.
It's her, truly her. 5 years have washed away the last trace of hothouse delicacy about her. What remains are resilience and silence weathered by wind and frost.
Looking at the photo on my phone screen, my heart felt both sour and swollen, mixed with the wild joy of recovering what was lost and an indescribable ache.
Did she run away from home to escape her parents' control, or to evade everything related to me? Dad, what's wrong with you?
Grace sensitively detected my mood fluctuations, her small hand gently touching my face. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to calm down, yet my voice carried an uncontrollable tremble. Grace, Daddy might be able to take you to see Mommy very soon.
Really?
Grace exclaimed with delighted surprise.
Really? But before that, Daddy needs to see someone first.
I started the car, yet my gaze drifted back to the figure on my phone screen. South of the city, the art and creative district. Here, far from the hustle and bustle of urban life, is where artists infuse their souls into creation. I parked nearby and, holding Grace in my arms, followed the address provided by my assistant to this place. The studio door was slightly ajar. Through the crack, I could see it wasn't large, but it was arranged warmly, brimming with an artistic atmosphere. A slender figure stood with her back to the door, intently mixing colors before an easel in the corner. Grace seemed captivated by the paintings here, whispering softly, "Daddy, it's so beautiful here." 14. I gently pushed the door open, and the figure in front of the easel visibly stiffened, the brush pausing mid-air.
Time seemed to freeze in that moment.
5 long years of separation, countless sufferings, humiliations, longings, resentments, all condensed into the silence after the door was pushed open.
She heard the movement behind her and slowly, very slowly, turned around.
The face that had appeared in my dreams countless times was now truly before me. It was her, Olivia. Thinner than in photographs, her complexion pallid from prolonged absence of sunlight. Her gaze first settled on my face, her lips trembling slightly as if wanting to speak, yet unable to make any sound. Those eyes held shock, disbelief, the sudden surge of immense pain, and even a flicker of fear. Then, her gaze uncontrollably, trembling and slowly moved toward Grace in my arms.
Their eyes locked. Instantly, tears welled up in her eyes and finally fell uncontrollably. "Daddy, what's wrong with Auntie? Why is she crying so sadly?"
I didn't answer Grace, just watched Olivia before me, weeping as if rain fell, barely able to stand steady. 5 years of pent-up longing seemed to lose all weight before the ferocious, silent pain radiating from her now. Only a leaden ache remained in my heart, laced with stinging bitterness. Holding Grace, I took a trembling step forward, my voice hoarse and shaking. "Olivia, I've found you." After a pause, I added softly, "Her name is Grace. She's our child, yours and mine." I looked down at Grace in my arms, my gaze softening slightly. "Grace, she's not an auntie, she's your mother."
"Mother?"
Grace repeated the word that was both foreign yet something she had longed for day and night, her big eyes sparkling with curiosity and a trace of naive closeness.
"Mother."
My relationship with Olivia, her parents knew nothing about it. Looking at Grace before her, she could no longer suppress her emotions and burst into uncontrollable sobs. She cried so completely, so utterly broken.
"I'm sorry, Grace, I'm sorry. Mommy is so sorry."
She wept incoherently, her hands tightly covering her face.
"Mommy, don't cry.
Grace missed you so much, every day.
I thought about you every single day."
Gradually, she finally calmed the emotions in her heart.
Just as I was about to speak to attempt an explanation of that past incident to prevent her misunderstanding,
the face washed by tears now revealed a faint smile. She softly said, "Yesterday, the police contacted me. I went to see them, and they told me the whole truth." Turning her head, she gazed at Grace cradled in my arms, slowly approaching before extending trembling hands to embrace both Grace and me tightly, so very tightly. Her face was buried in my shoulder, warm tears soaking into my clothes, her rapid breaths trembling with post-disaster relief. I turned my hand, holding her even tighter in return, feeling the tangible warmth and the weight of this long-awaited reunion in my arms. I knew all too well how much she'd suffered these past 5 years, endured too much bitterness and pain.
"Mei-chum," I responded softly, "let's go home." The end.